writing has shown to be a very effective way and a rather simple way to process trauma because, again, all you need is a pen and a piece of paper, right? One interesting thing that my wife and I have found, and I want to share this because it's really helped us. We will have a disagreement or an argument or a full-blown fight, right? Because we're human beings, right? We argue, we fight. I tend to withdraw and get quiet until I'm not. And then I'll start, unfortunately, I find I'm either quiet and withdrawn or I'm exploding. There's not really an in-between with me. I'm working on that. One thing that helps us is we will actually separate and pull out our phones and we'll start texting and we start writing to each other through our phones. Okay. And there's a lot of people that are like, oh, you can't do that because you can't tell the tone in a text. Guess what? We're both pissed. We both know the tone. Okay. We're both mad, right? There's no guessing about what the tone is here. Like, we're both pissed off. This is the Veritable Veteran Podcast, bringing truth and exposure to the struggles veterans and their families face post-military. Depression, anger, PTSD, suicide. Who am I? What do I do now? Hey guys, welcome back to the Veritable Veteran Podcast. So this week we're going to talk about writing, okay? This is a topic, a subject that some people are kind of against. A lot of veterans and just men in general don't feel like writing down their thoughts is helpful. They think the idea of keeping a journal is girly or feminine because I think they associate it with like keeping a diary. Like little girls have their little diary with the lock and key. Like everybody remembers those from the 90s, I guess. I guess they're probably still around, but either way, that's kind of what keeping a diary is associated with. And they write in there like, oh, I love Johnny and Johnny's so cute. And Jimmy, he's so cool. I love Jimmy's hair. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about writing through your thoughts. And that can either be like current thoughts, like you're just struggling with putting your thoughts into words, or you're like, what's going on in my head at this moment? Or it could be thoughts from, or situations that happened a long time ago. And you're like, hey, I need to work through what happened that day or during that time of my life or during this event. I need to work through what happened. The problem with traumatic memory is most memories have a beginning, they have a middle, and they have an end. Okay. Like, just think of something like a basketball season, right? You're playing basketball. You have a beginning, you have a middle of the season. You kind of remember like, yeah, we had this many games in between and then we had the end, right? And that was it. It was over. And you have memories of what happened in there, but there was a beginning when you started. There was kind of a middle point and there was an end. And that's the most important part, is the end. And we'll get to that. But what I'm saying is, with traumatic memory, it doesn't happen that way. Traumatic memory is they just take all that whole timeline and just smash it into a ball and then they just shake it. And it's everywhere in your head, right? So you have thoughts and memories of this event, but you can't place it on a timeline, right? So you're like, I remember this smell and I remember this sound and I remember the flash of seeing something, but I don't remember when that happened. I just remember that it happened and I don't know where I was. I don't know when it was. And that's very difficult to deal with because you're like, I don't understand when this happened, but I know it happened, right? Okay. That's where a lot of therapy comes in. And what therapy does, and not necessarily I'm not just talking about talk therapy and laying on a psychologist's couch and, talking through your feelings. I'm talking like EMDR or psychedelics and ibogaine and, stuff like this, where you're able to, in your mind, revisit this event. Okay. Through this therapy and through these techniques, you're able to revisit it from a safe place. Okay. Don't don't try and do psychedelics on your own. It's actually, it's dangerous. You need to have, from what from what I've been told and what I understand, you need to have somebody who's trained in how to use it. One, to make sure you get the proper dosage, and two, to guide you through it. Okay. Please don't do it on your own. That's all I'll say about that. Find somebody who knows what they're doing. The point is, though, is to be able to go back to that event. And what it does is when you go back through these techniques is you're able to start putting them in sequential order. Okay. My wife is an example. Perfect example. I wish she was here. I'll have her on sometime to tell her story of being guided through EMDR therapy for her trauma that she experienced when she was little. Before she had the EMDR treatment, she had all these memories, but they were fractured, jumbled, and missing pieces. It was like a puzzle that was just thrown in a pile, right? And she kept finding a piece here and a piece here and, a corner piece here and an edge piece here, and then just a piece that made no sense, right? You're like, why is this here? Where does this go? And if you've ever done a puzzle, you know how hard it is when you're looking at the puzzle, right, in a pile. It seems impossible at the beginning, right? Especially if you've never done it before. But if you've ever done a puzzle, or maybe you haven't, you have to know where to start. And where do you start with a puzzle? You start at the edges, right? Because once you have the edges in place, then you can start filling in the middle. These therapies will take you back to that event so you can have the edges, the start and the end. Okay. What writing does is it helps you process that event and write it down in sequential order. Now, you may not have a great memory of the event right now. That's why I would encourage you to couple this with other things such as EMDR and therapies like that. But if you can't do that yet, you can always just start writing through and be like, hey, I remember the smell of gasoline, or the smell of paint, or I remember feeling like rocks under my feet. Write it down. Write it down in a journal, in a notebook. I don't care where. Put it somewhere where you can return to it. Don't just write it on a scrap piece of paper and throw it away. You may end up destroying some of the writings that you do, but just hang on to this for a minute. If you're trying to work through something and you can't process this sequence of events, you got to start writing down the fragments. Okay. I remember seeing this. I remember seeing this color. I remember smelling this smell. I remember hearing this sound. I remember feeling this way. Like, whatever it is, write it down. Okay. Because here's the thing. When you're writing it down, neuroplasticity, it is creating a pathway through your brain. Okay. By using your hand, and your thoughts are being transferred to your hand, which you're transferring to paper, it's creating a neural pathway. Eventually, those neural pathways start to link up, and you'll start to think, oh, wait a minute, I remember this and this. And then you got a connection. Okay. And then you have another connection, and then you have another connection. And you start kind of peeling back the layers and putting that puzzle together. You start finding the edges, right? If you can't remember the event like very well at all, you probably really need to go get some therapy. Okay. You definitely need to get some therapy to help you process that so you can move past it. If you can remember the majority of the event, there's just some stuff in there that's kind of like, I don't know when that happened. Start as early on as you can possibly remember and start writing. Like me, for example, traumatic event when I was involved with the multiple IED explosions that were on the one day when I was in Afghanistan. First thing I remember is, because I don't remember when it really started, right? But I remember we were on security, and my team was on the north side. I was with one of my fire teams. We were on the north side of the compound holding security to the north. There was a patrol north of us, so we kind of, lowered our rifles, obviously. They're passing in front of us. So we are providing security for the patrol base. They're on a security patrol to the north. They pass in front of us, then they start taking fire. We get up and move to them, okay? That's when the whole event started, okay? So you've got to find as early on in that, but even before that, there was a lot that happened before that, because we had to move to the patrol base. We had to clear the village. And then we had to occupy the patrol base and then start punching out patrols. Okay. So there's even, before that, there's more to the story. What I'm saying is go back to the beginning to what you can remember and start writing. Because even then, in my mind, as I was saying that, I thought, wait, there was more before that. We had to actually, we went there. It wasn't our main patrol base. This was we went, cleared a village, occupied a compound, and we sent out patrols. This wasn't where we were living. Like I didn't have my bed there, and our COC wasn't there. So you have to start as early on as you can, and then just start writing down everything as you remember it. Just write it. You have to write it down. Okay. Write it down. And you just start processing and going through, and you're like, okay, I did this happened, that happened. And you just keep going as long as you can. Okay. While you're doing that, you're going to start remembering things that you completely forgot. You're like, oh yeah, like we did that. I forgot about that. Or, oh yeah, that guy was there. I forgot he was even there that day. And the more you write it, the more you're going to process it into a logical sequence of events. And you're going to say, okay, that's when I saw John do that thing, or that's when I heard that explosion, or that's when I smelled that gas, or whatever it is. By writing it down, you're placing it in sequential order, and you're processing it and reintegrating it into a memory rather than a traumatic event you keep going back and visiting and not knowing which portion of the event you're at, right? So writing it down, let me read this. I'm going to read this. Okay. I've got a book. This is a really, 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 really good book. Okay. The Body Keeps the Score. Bessel van der Kolk wrote this in 2014. He was a VA doctor for several years, and he wasn't able to publish his work until after he left the VA. So it would be his own work, and then he wouldn't have to, they wouldn't be able to claim it or anything like that. So I'm going to read like this first paragraph of this section called Writing to Yourself. Okay. There are other ways to access your inner world of feelings. One of the most effective is through writing. Most of us have poured our hearts out in angry, accusatory, plaintive, or sad letters after people have betrayed or abandoned us. Doing so, granted, this guy, most of his work he's quite a bit older. He's in his 80s now, I believe. He's still alive. I believe he's in his 80s. So when he's saying most of us have written letters, he's talking to like the older generation. A lot of people now have not. So keep that in mind. Doing so almost always makes us feel better, even if we never send them. Remember that. When you write to yourself, you don't have to worry about other people's judgment. You just listen to your own thoughts and let their flow take over. Later, when you reread what you wrote, you often discover surprising truths. As functioning members of society, we're supposed to be, quote unquote, cool in our day-to-day interactions and subordinate our feelings to the task at hand. When we talk with someone with whom we don't feel completely safe, our social editor jumps in on full alert and our guard is up. Writing is different. If you ask your editor to leave you alone for a while, things will come out that you had no idea were there. You are free to go into a sort of trance state in which your pen or keyboard seems to channel whatever bubbles up from inside. You can connect those self-observing and narrative parts of your brain without worrying about the reception you'll get. Why is it such an offense to someone who keeps a journal or a diary? Why is it such an offense if someone reads that? Because that is the most intimate information for that person. They're writing, when you're truly writing in a diary or a journal, you're not writing that for anybody else. I have a spiritual journal that I have kept. I haven't kept it as much as I want recently, but from a couple of years ago. And I have kept several throughout my life. In there are things that I don't want anyone to read. That's between me and God. And in there, I'm talking about deep struggles that I'm having. Struggles when I was deep into pornography, when I was struggling with alcohol, when I was struggling with anger and hate and just bitterness. So I have this journal that I kept that had a lot of very intimate information in it. And to my knowledge, nobody's ever read it. My kids have found it and been like, what's this? And I'm like, hey, give me that. That's mine. Don't read that, please. Like That's my journal. And they know to leave it alone because I've explained it to them. Now, my kids have had journals and diaries, and their brothers and sisters have found them, and they're like, "Oh, look what I found. I found their journal, and they said they like so-and-so," and I have immediately gotten onto them and been very firm. And I pulled them aside and I've sat them down and I said, "I do not ever, ever want to hear of you reading another one of your siblings' journals ever again." And here's the reason why. You have to be able to write and let out those feelings and thoughts somewhere, somehow, without anybody else ever seeing them or reading them. Ever. Like, never share that with anyone. Anyone, ever. That's between you and God. Okay. So when you get a journal and you like, what I'm saying is you have to guard that as well. Like, you can't just leave it on the counter and your kid picks it up, like, "What's this?" And they open it up and it's like you're discussing some intrusive thought that you had. And they're like, "What the heck is this?" And you're like, "Great. Now my kid thinks I'm crazy." You got to make sure that nobody finds this and just accidentally starts reading it. So you got to put it in a safe place. Okay. So be smart about it. What I'm saying is, here's another thing about when I had said earlier, we'd go back to like destroying these things. Sometimes the best thing you can do is write and write and write and write, reread what you wrote, process it, and then burn it. Okay. Just burn it. Seriously. Don't throw it in the trash. Do not crumple it up and throw it in the trash. People see crumpled paper and they're like, "Oh, what's this?" And they open it up and they just get, "Oh, I'm curious." Burn it until it is nothing but ash. Okay. And I'm not talking big chunks of ash. I'm talking like Avengers Infinity War ash, where they're just completely gone. Okay. Burn it and get rid of it. That way you don't have to worry, because that frees you from the concern of, "Man, I hope nobody ever reads this." They can't read it. It's gone. You wrote it. You put it out there. You put it on paper. You processed it, and then you burned it. Okay. I'm telling you, it's important because that frees you from the concern of, is somebody ever going to find this and read it? So if you have a particularly intense, intrusive thought or something you don't want anybody to read, once you've processed it, like, either lock it up, like legitimately lock it up, or burn it. Just get rid of it. That way you don't have to worry about it. Okay. But you also have to like communicate with your loved ones and be like, "Hey, this is really important to me that you guys don't ever touch this." And they have to be willing to respect that boundary. And if they violate that boundary, that's going to cause some distrust and some wounds that are going to take some time to heal. But communicating that to them and being fair with them, being like, "Listen, just because I wrote something in here doesn't mean that I hate you or I don't like you." Sometimes, like, I write things and I'm like, "I'm so mad at my wife right now, like I could put my fist through her face." I don't mean that. Okay. What I'm saying is my body feels like doing that. Like, I'm really mad. I'm not going to do that. But sometimes writing it down helps me realize, okay, that sounds kind of crazy. I don't really feel that way. But writing it down helps me realize that, because I'm just sitting there thinking, like, I'm just so angry, and I'm just keeping it in, and I'm like, I'm mad, right? Writing it down, like, I'm so angry right now. I just put my fist through the wall. And you're like, no, that makes a big mess. It scares your kids. It scares your wife. It makes you look insane, and you have to fix it. So don't do that. That's ridiculous. But you write it and then you read it and you're like, "Oh, that's like, I don't want to do that." Like he said in the book, when you reread what you've written, you start to discover things. And sometimes there's some things that you may not like about yourself. You're like, "Wow, I sound really selfish or really childish or petty." Good. Not good that you feel that way. Good that you found it. And you're like, "Yeah, I should probably not act that way or, say those things out loud, because that would probably hurt somebody." Right? Again, this is all for yourself, not for anybody else. So that's why you can say whatever you want. You can cuss. You can write in all caps. You can scribble as fast as you want to the point where it looks like a doctor's chicken scratch handwriting and nobody can really read it. You're processing. And it's really interesting. In this book, when you're reading through it, he's talking about these different studies where they've had people write through different things. Like, one group just wrote about their day. They're like, "Hey, tell me about, right from when you woke up till right now." "I woke up. I rolled out of bed. I walk to the bathroom, I use the bathroom, I brush my teeth, put my pants on, put my belt on, put my, just stuff like that, like just day to day mundane stuff, right? They tell the other group, hey, write through a traumatic event. They do that, right? And the writing is it can be a lot different looking. One is just rather kind of normal looking writing, like decent handwriting. The other one is usually it's a lot, I guess I would describe it as intense almost. But what's really interesting is when you take the same group and you tell them, hey, write about your morning, write about your day, right? So they write about their day. And then you say, okay, on the same sheet of paper, write through this traumatic event. Tell me what happened. Okay. So on the same sheet of paper or in the same notebook, they're writing about their day, normal mundane stuff. Then they go back to this traumatic event. Their writing changes. Their handwriting changes because there's a physiological response to the traumatic memory. That's why the book is called The Body Keeps the Score. Because like I said in my video post the other day, I barely thought about that kid that got run over by the truck. Okay, this teenager gets crushed by a semi, and I'm one of the first responding officers there. And it was a very grisly scene. I mean, he was crushed. Okay. And it didn't really bother me. I mean, it was sad. But I didn't have nightmares about it. I wasn't up late at night crying or thinking about it. I was like, yeah, it sucks. Like, it was a pretty nasty scene. But then 2 years later, I'm having a nightmare about my son being run over by a semi. Right. And it just snuck up on me. And all of a sudden I was like, oh my word, what happened 2 years ago on Thanksgiving? This kid got run over by a truck. I say kid, he was 18. He's basically a kid. My body remembered it, even though I wasn't consciously like thinking about it. Right. It's the same thing with like our bodies and our minds remember these things. And when we start doing certain things, they will present in different ways. So again, the point was when they're discussing their mundane, normal tasks of the day, handwriting was normal. When they started discussing the traumatic event that caused them so much trauma, their handwriting changed and it shifted in the way that it was, the shape of the letters, the distance between the letters, stuff like that. And it was really, I mean, it changed a lot. In some of these illustrations, you can see there's a huge difference. And it's like, doesn't even look like the same person wrote it because it looks like a professional, like, a working class professional wrote the first portion. And the second portion looks almost like it's written by a kid. Like it's all blocky letters and just like it's really interesting. But writing has shown to be a very effective way and a rather simple way to process trauma because again, all you need is a pen and a piece of paper, right? One interesting thing that my wife and I have found, and I want to share this because it's really helped us. We will have a disagreement or an argument or a full-blown fight, right? Because we're human beings, right? We argue, we fight. I tend to withdraw and get quiet until I'm not. And then I'll start, unfortunately, I find I'm either quiet and withdrawn or I'm exploding. There's not really an in between with me. I'm working on that. One thing that helps us is we will actually separate and pull out our phones and we'll start texting and we start writing to each other through our phones. Okay. And there's a lot of people that are like, oh, you can't do that because you can't tell the tone in a text. Guess what? We're both pissed. We both know the tone. Okay. We're both mad. Right. So there's no guessing about what the tone is here. Like we're both pissed off. But we're able to write and say, because sometimes I have a really hard time verbally saying what I'm feeling inside my head. I don't know why. That's something I'm really working on and I'm trying to understand with myself is I struggle to verbalize what I'm feeling. I am much better at taking my phone and typing out a message and being like, I feel like a loser. I feel like what you said was meant to hurt me. What you did made me feel this way. And I can type it out. I just type it out. And then I can send it. And she reads it and she'll go, okay. And she'll respond and say, I'm sorry that made you feel that way. Or that's not what I intended. And I'm like, right. that's just how it made me feel. And she'll say the same thing to me. Like, when you did this, it made me feel this way. And I'll be like, oh, and I start typing like crazy. And then I'm like, delete, 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 delete. Right. And I erase it because what I was about to say was probably going to be hurtful. Right. But because I'm typing it, there's that delay, just a couple seconds. Right. I'm typing it and I'm furiously tapping away with my thumbs. And I'm like, wait, stop. Erase that. So erase it. And then I think to myself, respond maturely, please. Like, or if you need a minute, take a minute. And because I used to think it was like, with me, it was like, I just need time. I don't really need a whole lot of time to process what I want to say. I just need to be able to find a way to say it, because verbalizing it for me is hard. Pulling out my phone and typing it, however, is not hard. Like, it's pretty simple for me and for her, which is really helpful because we're able to sit there and just, on opposite sides of the house, we're messaging and then we can work through it a lot faster that way for us. So again, it gives us the opportunity to kind of read what we're saying before we say it. That way we don't say something hurtful, because I find myself, she wants to communicate. And I find myself like, stop talking, leave me alone. I'm like, and I'm struggling to keep my sarcasm and my anger in until she says something that kind of just, breaks the dam a little bit. And then it's just an explosion of anger. And that doesn't help anybody. It hurts everybody, right? Including me and everybody around me. And it damages our relationship. It damages our trust. It makes her feel unloved. It makes me feel stupid. So it's really bad. So again, not for everybody, I don't think necessarily, but it's a really effective way that we have found to be able to separate and have a discussion rather than sit face to face and have a shouting match. Because that's, for whatever reason, that's what I want to do, is basically I'm going to be louder than you and I'm going to get my point across and I'm going to be sarcastic while I do it. It doesn't help anybody. But another benefit, the kids don't hear you yelling, right? They see you on your phone and you're like, and they're like, you okay? I'm like, I'm fine. I'm talking to your mom. And they're like, oh, okay, we'll leave you alone. Like, but I'm not over there going, you did this and it made me feel this way. And I just don't understand why you can't get this through your head and blah, 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 And then she's like, well, you did this, and on and on. And it's just the bickering, and it removes that because we're on the phone. And there's been times that we've been on the phone and we've gotten spicy. Like, we've gotten spicy with the text messages. And I'm like, yeah, well, meh. And she's like, yeah, well, meh. And then we're like getting at it, and we got to take a break. But again, we're not sitting there screaming at each other. All that to say, writing it through texting has allowed us to process and say what we want, with the added benefit of the delay and the ability to edit it. Because once you say something, you can't pull it back. If you're like, yeah, well, honestly, I hate you. And then you're like, wait, nope, I didn't mean that. Too late. You already said it. It's the illustration I use with my kids. When you say something, it's the exact same thing as taking a tube of toothpaste and just squeezing it all over a plate, right? Now, you've already squeezed it out. Put it back. Put the toothpaste back in the tube. You can't. It's not going to happen. You're not able to. I mean, you get a little bit back in there, and it could take, I mean, you might be able to, get some fancy, you might cut it open. Oh, I cut it open and I scooped it back. No, put it in through the nozzle. Put it back in. You can't, right? It's a great example for kids, because once you say something, you can't take it back. Writing gives you the ability to write it, read it, edit it, and then send it. Okay. So texting, that's why when he's saying we've in the book, he's talking about most people have written these letters. Nowadays, they haven't. Nowadays, kids don't even know how to send a letter. They literally don't even teach how to mail a letter in school anymore. We got taught how to address an envelope with the, mailing address, then the return address, where to put the stamp, how much you needed for the stamps, like for the weight and stuff. They don't even teach that anymore because nobody sends letters. We used to be better at communicating. And I know people say, well, cell phones have ruined our ability to communicate. I feel like they have given us another option for communication, and have improved it in many ways. However, obviously there's drawbacks. But writing letters, let's get into that for a minute. Writing letters. This is where a really good technique is to write this letter to somebody and then never send it. My father actually did this. He was told to do this when he was in therapy. He had a tumultuous childhood. It wasn't a terrible childhood, but his parents were not necessarily abusive to him, but they were abusive towards each other, and he witnessed it. And when he was in therapy, his doctor, his therapist told him to write a letter to his dad. And his dad had passed away when my dad was about 15. I think he was 15 or 16. And his dad, my grandfather, had a massive heart attack and he died. So my dad never got to send the letter. My grandfather never read the letter, but my dad wrote it, and it was very beneficial to him to have written this. My wife has done this, where you write a letter to somebody, and you may not get to send it. You probably won't get to send it, but by writing it, it's like, have you ever sent a text to somebody and you just kind of said what you were feeling, and then afterwards you felt like a release of like, oh, okay, it's out there. I said what I needed to say. It's done. It kind of has no more like power over you. That's what this does, is you put it in a letter, you process it, you write it, you get it out of your head and onto a piece of paper. And then you can reread it if you choose to, which can help you, one, process the memory and reintegrate it into a sequential memory. Two, it can help reveal incorrect thinking. And you may read that and go, wait, I blame myself for that? Or wait, I felt that way? Like, that's weird. I didn't realize I felt that way. Interesting. But again, you wouldn't know that if you didn't write it, because now you're able to sit above it, that kind of mindfulness aspect of looking at it from above and saying, oh, I didn't realize I felt that way. That's a little weird. Or, that would explain X, Y, and Z. Interesting. So, and then with the letters, what they'll do a lot of time, usually what they'll do is they destroy them after you write it. You write it, you read it, you kind of process it. And when you're done with it, burn it, throw it in the trash, put it in the shredder, whatever it is, just get rid of it. But that way you don't have to worry about somebody finding it and reading it and saying, what's this? Because it may not be something you ever want to talk about. It may not be something you ever need to talk about out loud, but processing it is what you need to do. And this is, again, for you, not for anybody else. Therapy is not just about sitting in a psychiatrist's or a psychologist's chair and talking about your feelings. Well, how did that make you feel? Okay, that helps sometimes. In some cases, it absolutely doesn't help. It makes it worse. That's why you need to talk to a therapist and say, hey, I don't know what therapy would work best, because you may be able to talk to them and they'll go, you know what? I don't think talk therapy is right. You may want to try TMS, which is, the transcranial magnetic stimulation. You may want to try ibogaine. You may want to try EMDR. You may want to try any of these other ones that you can try. There's a whole list of these therapies you can do. So limiting yourself to just saying, well, I went to the VA once and I tried talking to them and it made it worse. Okay, cool. Try again. Try a different therapist. Try a different type of therapy. Bring it up to your therapist and say, hey, I tried talk therapy and it really kind of made things like worse for a while. Do you do EMDR? Do you offer ibogaine? Do you offer these other therapies? And they'll say yes or no. They may. And I promise you, if they don't offer it, they know someone who does. Okay. And if they don't, and maybe they're not necessarily the most connected person, look it up, Google it, do some research, take ownership of your mental health and say, okay, I need to find somebody who can do this in my area. Do it. Or what if it's not in your area? What if you have to drive a couple of hours? Do you want to get better? Then do it. You got to put in the effort. I had a guy, and if he's listening to this, like I understand the situation he was in, and sometimes you just need some help, even if it seems simple. I have two examples of this, okay? This guy contacted me and he said, I'm trying to go to EMT school, and the VA denied my GI Bill request. He said, they won't pay for EMT school. And I said, yes, they will. He goes, no, they denied it. I'm like, then you did something wrong. And he's like, what do you mean? I filled out the paperwork. Okay, well, clearly you did something wrong because I know for a fact that they pay for EMT school. And he's like, well, I don't know what to do. And I said, did you call them? And he goes, I don't know I don't know who to call. Google it. I Googled the number. Okay. The GI Bill number. Google GI Bill phone number. It gives you a number. Okay. I sent him that number from Google. Just shared it directly to him. He called them. Like 3 days later, he messaged me back and was like, hey, I got my stuff approved. I'm going to EMT school in like a month. I was like, problem solved. I understand that sometimes when you're stuck in a situation, you just need a little bit of help. And that may have been, he was just so like this, that little bit of help just kind of took the blinders off a little bit and allowed him to see with a new perspective. Like, okay, the world isn't against me. It was a very simple thing. And now that it's fixed, so sometimes like, this is my example of sometimes you just need a little bit of help. It may seem simple to everybody else, but you need help. And this is a funny example. My wife will get a kick out of this when she listens to this. My wife's in labor. Okay. She's laying in the bed. She's in pain. Obviously she's in pain. I'm sitting next to the bed and I'm probably watching TV or I don't know, maybe reading a book, probably on my phone. I have no idea. I'm sitting next to the bed. I've had 6 kids. It was one of these. I don't know which one. I'm sitting there. And I'm kind of like, it's so awkward when like the love of your life is just in so much pain and there's nothing you can do except be there. And sometimes they don't even really want you to do that. They just kind of want to exist in their, and I understand like you're in a lot of pain. I get it. I'm not trying to, but it's just, it sucks being the other person and you're like, what do I do? I like touch you or hold your hand, and then you're like, let me hold your hand, and then she's like, hold my hand, and she's squeezing your hand, and then like she stops squeezing your hand for a minute, and then you're kind of like, you come back over for a minute later, you go to touch her hand, and she's like, don't touch my hand, and you're like, oh my gosh, like I don't know what to do, like I'm sorry, I'm trying to help, and she's like, just get away from me, and you're like, okay, so you leave, and then she's like, where did you go, and you're like, you told me to leave. So it's a confusing time, right? Regardless of that, she's laying in bed and she's like, I need the nurse. And I was like, and don't judge me. I was like, just push the button. It's right. Just push the button. It's right there. She's laying in bed and she's like, I need the nurse. The button is like right here, right? Like right here. And she's like, I need the nurse. And I'm like, just push the button. It's right there. And she goes, push the button and get me the nurse. And I was like, yes, ma'am. Boop. And I pushed the button. I reached across her and I pushed the button. I had to come from like the other side of the room to push the button. I talked to her about it later. She goes, babe, I literally couldn't move at all. She's like, it was everything I could to say the words, I need the nurse. So in that moment, it was a very simple thing, right? Just push the button. It was not easy. Okay. So I get that. Sometimes we need just a little bit of help, like I'm drowning and, and people are like, just swim, like, or just stand up. Like, it's not even that deep. They may not be able to at that point. Okay. So I get that, but we also have to take ownership of ourselves and say, like, if I need something, like, go get it. Like, go take ownership of that and be like, I'm going to go find this. I want this, so I'm going to go find it. You're not always going to have somebody bring it to you. You can't. Now, I understand sometimes you're drowning or you're in a lot of pain, mentally, physically, whatever, and you need just a little bit of help. I get that. But if you get used to just people handing you things and then you're in a situation where you really need help and you're like, or you come to expect it, and then it's not there. You're like, what do I do? Nobody's here to help me. Nobody's here to hold my hand. Just figure it out. Just do it. It sucks. Sometimes you got to just pull yourself up. I hate the phrase, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Sometimes you just got to power through. Okay. And a lot of times it just takes once or twice of powering through. And then you're in a place where you can actually like continue moving forward. It's just, you have that wall in front of your face, like right in front of your face. Right. And it doesn't take a whole lot of effort to get through it. It feels like it does. And to somebody on the outside, you're like, just, move it out of the way. to you, that's like the hardest thing in the world, right? Sometimes you got to just power through it. Okay. Sometimes you just got to get on the internet and say, I need an EMDR therapist near me that takes, cash payments or that offers financial aid, or call them and be like, hey, I don't have insurance right now, but I really I need this therapy. Is there any way you can help me? Because sometimes they have people that are like, yeah, I'll help, especially if you're a disabled veteran or, and they're like, I need this, but I can't get it through the VA. Do y'all offer any kind of financial aid? Do you have any scholarship type, things where somebody else will pay for this? Just ask them. These people want to help. Okay. Nobody gets into the mental health field because they hate people, right? If they do, then yeah, I have no idea. Most of them get into the mental health field because they want to help people. So chances are, if you call them and you're like, I don't have any insurance, I'm a disabled veteran, this trauma, it's killing me, I can't function. Is there any way you can help me? Chances are they're going to try to find a way to help you. Okay. You got to ask though. They can't read your mind. They're not going to come to your door and knock on your door and be like, hey, I was in the astral plane and I saw you struggling and I just decided to come to your house. Now here I am. They're not going to do that. It's not going to happen. You got to look for it. You got to go to them. Okay. Get up off your couch, do the work, right? It's hard. It sucks. But if you want to get better, you got to put in the sweat. You got to put in the work. Okay. Back to the whole thing about writing. Just because you don't like it doesn't mean it can't work. Okay. Try it. Try writing down your thoughts. Try writing through just simple things, just simple exercises. Grab a pen and a piece of paper and write what's coming to your head. Right now, especially if you're in a really good mood, maybe not the time to do it, but if you're feeling really depressed and you're just kind of stuck in that depressive episode, or you're feeling really anxious, grab a pen and a paper and write it down. Just write it for yourself. Nobody else has to read it. You're not writing for anybody else. You can write cuss words. You can write gibberish. You can just scribble. Just start writing and be like, I feel like absolute dog today. I hate everybody. I want the world to burn. And just write it. And it may sound ridiculous. That's fine. That's what you're thinking. Get it out of your head and onto the paper. Okay? Once it's on the paper, you look at it and go, I really don't want the world to burn because I'm part of the world. That might hurt. I don't hate everybody. There's people that I do like. And then you can start to challenge those crazy thoughts, right? Because it's not up here anymore. You drug it into the light and exposed it. And now you're looking at it from above and you're going, that's what I said. I don't really feel that way. Sometimes I do. I mean, I think that way, but I don't really mean it, right? So the next time you start having those thoughts, you're like, last time I wrote that down and then I thought about it and I realized I really don't want the world to burn because, again, I'm kind of part of this world. Probably don't want it to burn, right? At least not all the time. It gives you a chance to process it. Put it on paper, pen to paper, fingers on keyboard, whatever it is. I find that writing it physically with a pen and a piece of paper is better because it has the actual motion of your fingers, the neural pathway from your brain through your arm to your hand, to the pen, to the paper. Okay. It's a little bit different when you're typing it. I've heard people like to do that. I prefer writing it with a pen and paper. Some people love typing. By all means, if you love typing, do it. Just get it out of your head. Get it out of your head. Get it onto another medium, either on a computer or on a piece of paper. If you got to go out and find a stick and scratch on a rock, whatever, I don't care. Get it out of your head. You've got to stop sitting there and just wallowing in these thoughts. Even yesterday, I've been doing really well lately. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. I've had some situations where in the past, I would have blown my lid. Okay. And I didn't. I was actually doing really well. Okay. So I'm in a good place. Yesterday morning was in a horrible mood. Woke up just pissed at the world. I'm not even really pissed at the world. I woke up just kind of yeah, I'm good. And then some stuff happened and all of a sudden I was like in the tank, right? Just in the basement of my mind. And it was just all these stupid thoughts of you're a failure, you suck, you're not doing anything with your life. I mean, just pouring on me. And I was like, where did this come from? And my wife and I are supposed to go on a date yesterday because all of our kids are in school. We got to do some Christmas shopping. We're going to go to town. And I'm like, I'm going to ruin this whole day because I'm stuck in this. And then sure enough, some stuff happened and my wife was like, what the heck is wrong with you right now? Like, and I was like, I don't know. And then I just kind of sat there quiet. And she's like, babe, you got to talk to me. And eventually I was kind of able to eke out, like, I feel like I hate myself. I feel like I'm a failure. And she's like, you're not. I'm like, I know I'm not. And then we started kind of talking through that, and we were able to process it and move past it. So, but it took, and I'm not 100% sure where I was going with all that. I just know that, like, I've been doing well, but it can still sneak up on you, and you still have to be able to process those things when they show up. So, I mean, just because you're doing well doesn't mean that, like, it's not going to come back. Okay. So having these tools in your tool bag, right, gives you the options that you need when you're in that moment. Okay. And I think what it was is I was talking, what I was leading to was heading off those negative thoughts, right? And being able to be like, that's not true. Like, I may be thinking that, but it's not true, right? I'm not a failure. I'm not, right? But I feel like I am sometimes. No, but you're not. Like, you're not, right? So, but heading those off and being able to stop those thoughts in their tracks and be like, no, it's not true, right? That's important. That's necessary work that needs to be done. I've covered pretty much all that I wanted to cover on writing. In a future episode, I want to talk about the use of art and music and even dance with people processing trauma and working through speechlessness. Because again, I find myself being able to write when I can't talk, when I can't verbalize it. That speechlessness that takes over me, I can overcome that through writing. Some people overcome it through drawing, making music, singing, and some people through dancing. So I'm going to read this again from this book. And this is just kind of a prelude into an upcoming episode. The capacity of art, music, and dance to circumvent the speechlessness that comes with terror may be one reason they are used as trauma treatments in cultures around the world. Here in the United States, a lot of our trauma treatments are focused on medication and talk therapy. There are a lot of other therapies around the world that are used that are looked on by Americans as, like, it's kind of like new agey and woo woo and, like, weird, but they've been around for a lot longer than medication and talk therapy, and they work. So we're going to continue getting into some more things like that, different tools we can use to process our trauma and to work through the thoughts that are going on in our minds and to quiet the noise in our heads. That being said, if you guys want to get any Veritable Veteran apparel for Christmas, you need to order it by December 11th. So today is the 3rd. Okay. You've got 8 more days. So you've got about a week. If you want to get any apparel for some, friends, family, for yourself, whatever, before Christmas, you've got to order it by the 11th. So go to therveritableveteran.com, go to the shop. You can get any of the apparel that we have. I've got the sweatshirt on. You can get this sweatshirt or any of the other ones. Just know that you have to order it by the 11th, December 11th, if you want to have it by Christmas. Okay. I love you guys. And I'm really happy about where this podcast has gone. I'm excited to continue, pushing this stuff out to you guys. If you have anything you want to hear, shoot me a message or shoot me an email and we'll talk about it. Okay. Cause I'm open to talking. If one of you is experiencing it, there's probably 10,000 others that are experiencing the same thing and they just haven't talked about it yet. So if you have a topic you want to talk about, please shoot me a message, send me an email, evan@therveritableveteran.com. If you want to be on the show, go to the website, fill out the form, the podcast guest form, or, shoot me an email, evan@therveritableveteran.com, and we'll see about getting you guys on the show. All right. I love you guys. Hey guys, quick reminder, if you enjoyed the episode today, don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, go to whatever platform you listen to these podcasts on and leave a review. That's the best way to help us out. It gets a lot more traffic to us. So again, if you liked it, like, subscribe, and leave a review. All right. Love you guys.